In this video we're going to talk about action learning. This is one video in a whole series of videos on this topic. But more specifically in this video we're going to talk about the two types of participant in action learning. The first type is the presenter, the person who is really the organizer and the central figure in the whole process, the one who organizes and tries to bring the process forward and achieve its objectives. And then there is the second type who participates in that and makes a contribution, but is really more of a worker, more of a thinker and a doer, and contributes towards the overall organization of the project, but is not central in the organization of the final delivered product. So we've got an action learning situation which is dealing with something which is real and at present. It's not in the future and it's not in the past. This is an issue that's confronting, let's say, the business at this moment in time, and requires resolution. It requires some action to be taken. And a team is brought together, which sometimes referred to as the action learning set. It's a group that come together to try and resolve the issue. They will bring in different skills and different abilities, different aptitudes, and amongst these there will emerge the presenters. The presenters are the ones who present the ideas and organize the ideas and tries to get a workflow within the group so that there is constant emphasis on the issue until a solution is found, and then the group can break up, can move on to other things. So we're going to look here at how the presenters try to educe good learning from the meetings they have. And don't forget, the meetings are focused on some specific issue that has arisen within the business that needs resolution. And the solution to that is not available in textbooks or in articles. It's more to do with their experience and their ability to problem solve. Being involved in a group means there are different perspectives and it may be a better way of getting a solution. So it's looking at a real situation within a business. Now, the problem that presenters should do is trying to prepare the meetings. The presenters must prepare meetings. The group must meet to discuss what they think, what's going on, and what the solutions could be, and what the proper course of action should be. So they should prepare for the meetings. And that means preparing the environment, making sure that they have a nice place to meet, and it's conducive to talk and openness. And there are facilities available to record their conversation, their ideas, and it's preparing the meeting, making sure everyone knows about it, make sure that the meeting occurs at the time and it's conducted in a proper manner. They should be very clear about what they want to achieve. The company may have a problem with some issue. It may have a problem about introducing a new machine into the production process, or there may be some issue about required training or health and safety issue, or whatever it is. And the presenters need to be clear what the issue is, and they must be able to present that. This is the problem. State the problem, and then start to get reaction to the problem and understanding of the problem, so that the group can move on towards finding a solution to the problem. So they have to be clear about what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to work out what they will do to ensure this, to ensure that they will achieve their objectives. They have to work out what they're going to do. What's the modus operandi? How are they going to do it? Are they going to have regular meetings? What's expected at the meetings? What work is expected outside of the meetings? It also needs to be sure that each member of the group understands the role of the action learning set, the group itself. They must know that they're in a group trying to find a solution, and the reason why they're in the group is because there's a diversity of views, and that is good because that means a solution has greater chance of being found. The diversity of views, the different views within the group may spark off the solution. So having a wide range of views is a good thing. They need to structure their time. They need to be sure that they're able to meet their daily tasks and participate in the group. But when they're in the group, they need to be able to divide up their activities. They need to be able to make sure they're able to achieve it in the time allocated. The tasks set to them must be feasible. It must be possible to achieve those tasks, and they must be able to organize themselves and their tasks so that they are within time. It's reasonable. So the presenters should make sure that what is asked of members of the group is reasonable. It can be done. The presenter should tell the set what they want and point out what isn't helpful. Now, it may sound a little rough, the language, but it's important to tell members of the set what is not required. Now that seems like almost an impossible task because so many things are not required. But within the scope of what is here, they're trying to achieve here, it's necessary to tell them not to focus on certain things, to focus in on some, exclude others, to orientate themselves in a particular way, to ignore the following distractions. In other words, they become quite focused as a group. But they're all looking at it from their own particular perspectives, of course, but nonetheless they're quite focused and they're not being pulled off on tangents. They're not going off in different directions and widening the problem out. They're focusing in on the specific problem, and anything outside of that is not helpful. Now the set members should be listening and attending and asking helpful questions. The set members should be contributing towards the discussions. They should listen carefully to what everyone says. If need be, make a note of what's been said. They should attend the meetings and make sure that they're up to date with what's happening within the group, and that their questions should be relevant. The questions should not be peripheral. They should not be on the margins. The questions should be relevant. Learning not to interrupt is a big skill. Sometimes when people are speaking, others interrupt, and the interrupt which breaks up the flow of the presentation. It may knock the speaker off the point. The speaker may lose the thread and forget exactly what the point was. They should be clear. The set members should be clear about what they're asking or what they're saying, and consider whether it is helpful to the presenter. But they shouldn't really interrupt. They should wait for people to speak. It's really the job of the presenter to control what goes on within the meeting. The presenter is the person who has overall control of the meeting, and if someone is making an irrelevant point, they should be able to cut it short. But it's not the function of other set members to interrupt. That leads to confusion and vagueness, and eventually there will be no proper outcome from the meeting. But the members of the set should be able to convey interest and empathy, and should be able to provide information openly if required. They shouldn't hold back on anything they've found related to the project. This is not a power situation where they're trying to score points. This is where they are genuinely trying to help each other to solve the problem. So this should show interest and empathy. It should relate to other people's problems. If other people were trying to do something to bring about a solution to the problem, they should empathize. They should relate to that. They should help them, be supportive. But they should really be trying to provide information readily, volunteering the information in the form, look what I found. I found this, and if that, then this. I didn't know this before, but this is linked to that. That sort of information can be useful because others may not be aware of it. Some may be, but at least it brings everybody onto the same level. This is where they stand. And now there's a greater understanding of the issue. It should be supportive and offer insights and ideas in the right time and in the right way. But they should be supportive. Even where someone has tried and failed, instead of staying quiet or even making light of their efforts, they should be supportive. They should look at what happened, see why it broke down, try and support the person to try and get back on the tracks. But they should be challenging. They should, in a constructive way, challenge what's happening and make sure there is absolute clarity from the challenge. It's very similar to academic writing. In academic writing, the writer looks for criticism. That doesn't mean they're looking for nasty personal criticism. They're looking for logical criticism of what they've said, or of what they've found, or of their work. And that's the academic way. And in business, there's a parallel. In business, when the problem arises and they're trying to fix it and someone offers a solution, the solution should be challenged. What if? What if this happens? What happens? What will we do if you do that and this happens? Those sort of questions are relevant. Those sort of questions should be encouraged because they may expose weaknesses in the solution. And perhaps what appears to be a solution, prima facie, turns out not to be a solution. Let's look at the Kolb learning cycle because it's so relevant in the context of action learning. Well, with the Kolb learning cycle, we have different stages. And the first stage is having an experience. So the experience in the case of the learning action learning situation is there could be system failure. Part of the system has failed or something has gone wrong. That's the experience. The experience is something is not working. So it's a bad experience. Stage 2, review the experience. Think about the experience. What happened? What caused it? How can it be fixed? It could be perhaps resetting everything. We'll go back and fix it. Or was there something more fundamental? Or was there something missed? Was there perhaps the machine, if it is a machine that's broken down, it was used wrongly? Or it could be, if it's in marketing, a big share of the market was lost because some action was taken which did not go down well with the market. So it's a question of reviewing the experience. What happened? What caused it? And trying to understand whatever the issue is. Then stage 3 is concluding from the experience. First of all, having the experience and then reviewing it and thinking about it and then concluding from it. And stage 4, plan the next steps. So this is a sort of a modified Kolb learning cycle, but you can see here we have 4 steps where we start with an experience, review the experience, conclude from the experience, and then plan the next step. And this is the way the action learning occurs. It occurs because the people who are involved in the sets have an experience. They see some problem, some issue. That's the experience. Something's not working right. They review it to try and find what happened, what caused it, try to fix it, try to find a solution. And this is very much hands-on, and the problem could be unique to that business. So there is no easy solution on the internet or anywhere else. This is something that simply has to be worked out. But having done it, they conclude from that experience. And then, of course, they move on to the next step. The next step is how to avoid this breakdown in the future. And if it does occur, of course, they've got now a modus operandi. They've got a way of approaching the solution to that problem. Now, facilitation issues and processes. Now, to facilitate the meeting, the presenter, the person who is presenting at the meeting, needs to be able to look at the processes and the issues and guide the meeting. And that's what we want to look at in the last few slides here. So it's important that they're able to stop the meeting at any time and review. Someone's making a point. Okay, let's stop now and think about it. What does this mean? Stop and review. Don't just carry on. It's important that the meeting stop, think about the importance of what's been said, noted any immediate points related to it, stop and think about it, record it. Even if the meeting is to continue and that issue hasn't been resolved or properly understood, move on with the meeting, but make a special note to return to that point, because that point needs to be addressed. So be able to stop the meeting and review. Be able to also check members' feelings about issues and progress. It's important to be able to find out what the members of the group think. Perhaps some of the members of the group are feeling bored or not engaged. And it's a question of re-engaging them. How do you do that? And how is it? Why did it become disengaged in the first place? What happened? So look at the issues and the progress and check the members' feelings to make sure everyone's on board. Everybody understands what's happening, everybody understands the importance of it, and everybody wants to contribute. But also question the relevance of comments. Sometimes people make comments and they're not directly relevant. They're maybe peripheral. They're on the sidelines. Some comments are not that useful. So why did a person say it? What was the purpose? Maybe it was useful and only the speaker understood the significance. So maybe probe it more. Probe the comment to see if it was relevant. If it's not relevant, just in a polite way, move on. But if it was relevant, having probed it, having discovered its true meaning, then that is a benefit to the group. It's important that the presenter is able to pose relevant questions. Sometimes the group may fall quiet. There's nothing being said and no one wants to make a contribution because they can't think of the next step. So it's important that the presenter be able to keep the momentum rolling, keep it moving by posing relevant questions and making sure that the questions that the presenter is using, make sure those questions are of course relevant as well. So try to keep the momentum flowing by posing relevant questions. Review all contributions to ensure that none are overlooked. Sometimes when groups meet and people make points, some points are lost. They just simply get lost because people are speaking one after the other. There's a continuity going around the group. People are making contributions and observations on each other's comments, and someone might just say something that just gets lost. It recedes into the background, and perhaps that's the point that needs to be looked at. Rather than having having it mentioned and then ignored or bypassed, it's important that all contributions are reviewed and dealt with. To that end, keeping notes of what's happening is a good idea. Recording the various points is a good idea. Program rest breaks to maintain concentration. People can't sit discussing a single topic for long periods of time. It's not the human way. So break off and let them have a hot drink or walk around for a while and resume later when they're more refreshed, and continue with the various questioning and look at the various points that have been made. So make sure that there are ample breaks to make sure that there is a more concentration and more focus when they reassemble. Ensure that the contributions relate to the ground rules. Make sure that all the contributions are relevant, in other words. Make sure that the contributions go back to the real problem. That the contributions are not getting too superficial or too abstract. Make sure that the contributions are aimed at fixing the problem for which they're there in the first place. The reason why they're meeting is to fix some problem, is to deal with some issue, and make sure that the comments are related to that. Continually emphasize the objective to maintain focus, so no one drifts away. It's important that the presenter continuously mentions the reason why we're here is to solve this, and that should be said over and over many times, so that everyone is just focused on solving that problem. They're not going away to develop something big and wonderful. They're not there just to talk or to impress each other. They're there to solve a problem. And by emphasizing that objective, it maintains focus. And review the effectiveness of the set. This may require some political understanding of the set and of how to go about being encouraging whilst at the same time critical. Review the effectiveness of the set and talk about today's session was not that productive, and the reason why was because we emphasized too much some point and we didn't focus in on the central core issue. So it may be that the day was very productive, in which case the group should be congratulated on good work and good contributions, and send them away feeling that it was time well spent. So they're reviewing the effectiveness. By reviewing the effectiveness of the set, the presenter is able to give feedback to the group. Then, of course, there's the closing session. Well, record the session. I said this earlier. It may be it's possible to get someone to clerk the session and make notes as to the various contributions. It may be that the participants have no objection to have it videoed, perhaps, or could just have it recorded, an audio recording. Doesn't matter. Taking notes is probably the quickest way and the most efficient way, and the notes can be disseminated amongst the group members before the next meeting. But there is an objective set at that meeting, a scheme of work that needs to be undertaken prior to the following meeting, and this should be, of course, recorded, so there's absolute clarity about what each member of the group should do in preparation for the following meeting. Now, a member of the set may be designated to take the notes. They may volunteer, or they may be just generally invited to do so. Perhaps a little bit of pressure. But clear notes, and the notes should be passed around and agreed. And this can be done electronically, of course, in many situations. Simply writing out the notes in an email, passing it to the group members, and any problems or issues can be then emailed back, and that can be sorted out. Then, when they meet the next time, there is a clear agenda for what should be discussed at the following meeting. And in this way, there's a record of progress as well. An action plan is drawn up for each presenter, which they will take away and act upon before the next session. So it's not just each presenter, but each member of the group. Everyone participating should have an action plan as to what they're going to do, which will advance the overall group activity. So each one will have almost an assignment to complete, and upon completion of that, they will meet, talk about what they discovered, what they did, the problems they encountered, how they got around the problems, if they did, and in this way an overall advancement of the group can be picked up and measured, and of course recorded, ultimately leading to a final solution to the problem. I talk about this as if it's a very long, drawn-out process. In fact, a lot of this can be done very quickly. A meeting could take place in the morning. They could break off for a couple of hours, review, look, check everything, meet up again in the early afternoon, break, and perhaps have a short session just before going home in the evening. So it might be possible to have 3 sessions in a day. But it's all designed to try and solve the problem. The downside with rushing it is that the reflective period may not be long enough, and that the solution that emerges, if it's rushed, may not be a robust solution. Sometimes allowing a little longer for reflection is a good thing. But the point I'm just trying to make here is that it doesn't have to be a very long and protracted activity. So that's how presentations for action learning may take place, and how they may be conducted, and some of the issues that need to be considered when conducting active learning. But that's all we're going to deal with here, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.